You're now listening to So You Were Saying
with Dora and Lex.
Tune in every Friday for the latest episode.
So, hey, guys.
What's up? You are now tuned in to another episode of So You Were Saying with your host,
Dora.
and Lex. Yeah, Dora was like taken back by my what's up?
I was like, okay, well, that's where we're going.
That's where we're
sis.
going today. It wasn't a hey type of day. Anyways, how you doing today?
Oh, this is a question for me?
I mean, technically, yeah, you're the only person I'm talking to right now. Until they hear
I
it.
was like, I'm sorry. Is this an audience question? Are we giving these effects? Because, the what's up threw me off. I'm doing all right, I'm feeling a little nauseous right now. No, I'm not preggers. I'm just throwing it out there.
We're fasting.
It's just, I'm fasting.
Not
And
we, her. I'm not
yes,
fasting. I just ate.
I am fasting. And today I just don't feel that great.
But we're here.
We're here. Live and in color.
Anyways, today, guys, we are here to talk about
early midlife crisis.
Yes, because this has really been on my mind heavy these days.
Apparently, you going through it.
Yo, I'm telling. Well, it's not. You know what is crazy?
It's not that you're going through it. You're observing it.
Exactly.
Oh, you're observing people going through it.
Right.
Oh,
but I also do feel like at some stage, I don't think it's an early midlife crisis. I will say that I am in a stage of transition in my personal life.
Right.
But even
after
with
those 2 episodes.
Oh God, yeah. If you guys heard the last 2 episodes, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, with less, there's more to that. We're not gonna talk about that right now. That's not what we're here for.
That's
Anyways,
none of your business.
But yeah, so I do definitely feel like I'm going through a transition, but I wouldn't call it an early midlife crisis. But I am observing other people definitely hitting a stage in their life where I feel like it's an early midlife crisis.
What's this age range that we're talking about?
For the early?
Mm-hmm. For the early? Yes. For the early? Yes.
You know what? It's really between like 25 and 35, right? Because I feel like that's a very crucial age.
Of course.
And it's the age where you are now stepping into a more mature level of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like a middleman. It's kind of just like, dang, like I'm old enough to know better, to do better, to be better. But I'm young enough to still have time to get there. But I'm at a stage where I'm stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Or where I'm like, again, transitioning.
Right.
But then, depending on the type of person that you are, who you are, and what you've experienced and gone through in life, it can be like an early midlife crisis because you're wise beyond your years. Right? So, for example, like people who have been married and they married young and then got divorced. Right?
Oh, God.
You are, I know, I'm not trying to but it's true. Like you're at a different caliber than someone who is early 20s, living their best life. Like it's different responsibilities and levels depending on what you've experienced in life.
Right.
So that's why I call it the early midlife crisis.
And then maybe I'm going through it. Well, it's just, no, I definitely
or
agree.
somebody who's had kids young, like who had kids in their teens.
Right.
That's a different set of responsibilities than teenagers and early 20-year-olds who don't have kids and don't have that, level of responsibility.
It's a different perspective, right?
So when you're hitting your 25 to 35 age group, right? Depending on what you've experienced thus far, you could really be in the middle of an early midlife crisis.
Right.
Where you're going to a point where you're doing, when people say, "Oh, you're going through a midlife crisis," it's usually because they're doing something really irrational, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is wrong with you? That's like, this is just common in the movies. I'm not coming for the seniors, but when those like
for the seniors, I'm
50 plus people who go and like buy motorcycles when
Right.
they've never had a motorcycle, that's like typical in the movie. That's why I use that example. But yeah,
they're like trying to live
a life that they feel like they've missed out on.
Right, during their earlier years.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know if I would really categorize it. I think that I prefer the word transitions better than early midlife crisis.
Well, it depends on the actions that you're taking. Because if you're doing things that you're transitioning in your life and it's logical, remember early midlife crisis, the midlife crisis or the crisis of it all is irrational behavior.
Right.
Irrational. I said
right.
that was like, wait,
irrational, but All right,
Y'all,
you
I be
correct. I was gonna
telling,
correct her, but I
girl,
didn't
I
want to do
correct myself. I don't need y'all to correct me because I correct me. Thank
I'm
you.
done. Okay, so you're gonna have to spill some tea because I feel like you're speaking in regards to a very particular person.
Actually,
We need to
okay.
give them a name.
I'm really not.
Okay,
More just like,
you're talking about something because you.
well, because I'm talking about the concept of the whole thing, right? And why
Mhm.
people go through these things. That's more of what I'm trying to get to. It's not really about a specific individual, but specific people have given me this perspective that I'm about to share with you guys,
Mhm.
which is we live in the phrase of life is too short, right?
Mhm.
And for some reason when people hear that, it's like, oh, life is like live now, life is too short, you're going to miss out on everything that's happening. It's like, but what if life is long and beautiful? What if life what if you change your perspective and you thought very long term and life is long and is beautiful and is prosperous? Not to say that you need to slow down on what you have going on in your life as far as like your accomplishments and what you want to achieve, but take a moment to live a little. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think we kind of touched on this the other day, but okay. So the whole perspective, or at least the way that I take it, with the whole life is short and you need to take advantage, is because many times we do not enjoy the present and we're also not appreciative of the present. So I
Mhm.
definitely understand what you're saying as far as there is like also prepare for the end game, and the end game can possibly be, 20, 40, 50 years from now.
Mhm.
But for me in particular, when I hear the perspective of, life is short and you need to take advantage, is also take time to be in the present. Because I feel like many times we plan and, like when you have that perspective of like, you have 50 years to do something, many times that's in reference to people's hustle. And then
Mhm.
they concentrate their entire surrounding on, I'm a hustle, 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 so I can enjoy it when I'm like 65.
Right.
Right? But again, not everybody gets to be 65, so
Right.
you also have to be, conscientious of, okay, well, if I don't reach 65, I have to be appreciative of this moment and be present in this moment. And I think that's the way that I changed, because for me, it was a lot when I was working for the facility especially.
Mhm.
I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna grind, 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 do these hours that are ridiculous, not have time for myself, not do actually what I want to do,"
Right.
because I was like, "Oh, I have to finish school and I have to, help out with the family and I have to do this and I have to do that." There was always an excuse as to why later will be a better time frame. But then one day it hit and I'm like, "Sis, like what are you doing?" Because you also have to take that balance and be able to enjoy the present. So that's
Mhm.
why it's just like, okay, when I was like, "Colombia, okay, we out.
We out. First
We
of all, that was
out."
an amazing trip, okay? And that was an
Right.
amazing, phenomenal trip. If you
And then
guys
it
have never been to Colombia, Cartagena, you
right.
go. That's all I'm saying.
And then like 2 weeks later was like, "Vegas, I
Oh,
bet
I was
Vegas."
so mad at you guys for leaving
Oh
me.
my
I
god.
was so upset. You and him can really kick rocks because I missed that
First of
trip.
all
Where was
first of
I? Why
all,
didn't I go on that? I don't even remember y'all why y'all
you
left me.
had just no,
I
because
was transitioning.
well, aside from
I
transitioning,
was
remember, you also took 2 big trips
back to back.
back to
Yeah,
back.
finances were a little tight.
So, there was also because I think that's when you went to
That's when I was.
Louisiana.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
No, it wasn't Louisiana, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Colorado.
Oh, was it
It was
Colorado?
Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But again, that was one of those things, like, that wasn't even that was literally like I got a phone call, rewards programs. Um, I got a phone call and they were like, "I can get you this room in Vegas for this amount of money. You ready?" And I was just like, for the first time, I was like, "Sure." And in the back of my head, I was like, "Am I getting scammed?" Because working the job that I work now, I'm like, "Girl, that could have been a whole scam and a half." And
Could've.
you were like, "Yes,
Yes, here's my card
here's my
number.
card number." But thankfully it
It
wasn't.
wasn't.
It was not whatsoever, and it was legitimate, and kinda like I called up my friend and I was like, "You out? You
'Cause
got
he's
the
always
money?"
down to book a trip, and he's so bougie, but, he be about his coin, so he was ready to
Right,
go.
he exactly, and his coin be ready, so
Yeah,
I
it
was
really
like,
does.
"Let's go." So I just took that step, but for me, really, when I say, life is short, it's not that I'm not planning for the future, I definitely am,
Mhm.
but I also now live in the present moment, and I take time to appreciate that moment. and be present in it because I wasn't doing that before.
Well, that's my point of people having early midlife crises. That's a word.
Crisis.
Crisis. I'm about to say, what's the
I think it's
plural term
crisis.
of that?
Yeah,
Is it crisis?
I think it's just crisis.
Early mid. Oh, whatever.
I think it's just even in the
It's
plural.
yeah. So it's singular and plural. That one
I
word.
think so.
We're gonna have to look that up later. But anyways, we're
Whatever.
now English major right
Don't
now.
quote me.
Don't quote me on that. But so that's my whole point is because we don't learn to do that early on, we're hitting these early midlife crisis moments because you get to a point where you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like
Right.
25 to 35 is really a what am I doing with my life moment.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, this is if you haven't already figured it out. Some
Right.
people, they're lucky enough that they know what they want early on and they achieve it early on, and that's great. For the average person, that is not always the case. And you are in this limbo
Right.
almost, right? And you're like, so for example, like a person who was hustle up until 25, now they're like, dang, I missed out on so much. Let me be irrational. Let me live my life now, right?
Mhm.
And then you have those people where they partied hard, didn't work hard, and now they feel like, dang, like I should be
Right, at a different
at a
level.
different level and I'm not. And now you're beating yourself up, hence irrational behaviors.
Mhm.
Like the way that it's programmed in society to push us in so many different directions, which does not allow us to really just think for ourselves, right? It's always what someone else is telling you to do and want you to do. And we really don't get a chance unless you're just blessed enough to have the people surround you that really give you the chance to think and develop your own individuality,
Mhm.
right? But for the most part, it's go to school, go to college, get a degree, do this because X, Y, and Z,
Right.
right? And granted, that works for some people and it's amazing. Like, I'm not knocking it, but it's not for everybody. And then you get to this stage where you're like, but that's not what I want to do.
Right.
And now you're all over the place.
And funny enough, I think that's kind of relatable to us, or at least to my part of this podcast, because that's kind of like what sparked this. Because if you
Yeah.
really think about it, I kind of just reflected and I was like, I don't like what I do. I don't like what I do. I mean, I've been to college, I have a degree, but what context am I using that degree in?
I didn't even use my degree.
Right, no, I
It's like just
right.
sitting there.
But what I'm saying is like, what? Yes, okay, business administration, but am I actually administrating the things that I actually want to administrate?
Right.
Like, I'm not enjoying myself, and that's one thing. Again, when I
And
took
that's
that time,
miserable.
right? It's just like I was just, to be completely transparent, October, November, December
Oh,
of
we're
this.
going there finally. Yes. Are we going there this
What?
past year? Because that was like a
Right.
topic that we avoided for a while. Are we about to hit it?
I mean, okay, sure. I didn't. I didn't think we were
no,
avoiding it.
you did. You said you were like, oh, I would have to disclose, a lot of information about that that time frame, and you
Oh, I
didn't want to
guess.
talk about it.
Right. Okay, so I guess we're gonna bring somewhat of it up, right?
Okay.
So October, November, December. December I love because I love Christmas and the New Year, whatnot. But October, November, literally were months that I really went through a depression spell.
Yeah.
I went through a depression spell. I have been the type of person that my work ethic, thanks to my mother, has been impeccable
Mm-hmm.
throughout my entire life. Like what I mean, from the point in time that I got my first job to October, November, and December, I was one that even if I was sick, I would show up to work. I've worked at the facility with a fever. I've worked throwing up. I've worked hung over. It didn't matter.
Those days.
Right. It did not matter what, but I was showing up because at the end of the day, they were not going to say that Dora did not do her job and that her work ethic wasn't A plus plus plus.
Right.
But something hit in those months that I was just like, I hit this depression. And I think it also has to do with the fact that I was going through a lot. Family wise, you know, I it's just we're the type of I'm Latin, okay? I'm Latin, y'all. If you didn't know it, Latina 100%, okay? For us, we take care of our grown folks. So our seniors, we
Yeah.
take care of them. We don't believe in homes. That's not what we do. It's basically we have that respect that our elders are the ones that we take care of. through and through, even when it gets to that age where they can no longer take care of themselves.
Right.
We are here. And honestly, like within my situation, I should have been prepared for this because we went through this with my grandmother.
Right.
And my grandmother had Alzheimer's that eventually became dementia. And it was
May she rest in peace.
right. But it was a journey, y'all. Like, if you have not been in a position where you sit down and you take care of somebody with dementia, Alzheimer's, on towards the end of their life, it is something that is very taxing on your soul. Bless you.
Sorry, y'all.
And because of that, like, I thought that I was going to be prepared when it came down to my grandfather.
Right.
Mind you, my grandfather has always been a very strong person, and he's been through a lot. Like my grandfather's a cancer survivor, not once but twice. You know, aside from that, like the second time that he had cancer, it affected his mental a lot because he just saw himself like deteriorate as a person. Because when you go through cancer, the chemotherapy and all of that kind of just disintegrates your body. Aside from the fact that the second time that he went through cancer, he was a lot older, so it wasn't the same time frame of recovery for him. So with that, I thought I was going to be prepared to see, you know, where he would be and be able to carry that out. However, it kind of caught me off guard when I started seeing him I guess he just deteriorated so quickly, and it happened so quickly. And it's kind of like, unfortunately, when you're in that predicament, not everybody wants to take the time out of their life to be able to cooperate. And that's where it came to play within my household. Um Thankfully, we were strong. Like my nuclear family, the people that I live with were very strong, and we all kind of just pitched in together and was like, okay, I have one day, one day, one day, one day. But realistically, it's still a lot. You see, you're speaking about taking care
I
of a
can only
person.
imagine.
Yeah. So it's just you do everything, right? So there was that in the back of my mind. And then there was the fact that I just started having, I guess, the midlife crisis or going through transition and realizing I'm working a job that I really don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like. And again, my performance went down. I unfortunately got hit with management team that wasn't as supportive as I had once had. So it was just like transition after transition after transition. And I felt like I didn't have support. And that just hit my depression like tenfold. And again, we all know Dora has problems with binging. So binging went through the roof because I was coping everything through food.
Right.
Um, Conscious that I was doing it, but again, I
Unable
did
to
not
really
care.
fully
Right.
control it because it's just like, what is going on with my life?
Well, I could have controlled. I just didn't care. I was just so stuck into my depression. I did not care
Mm-hmm.
because and so much so that I didn't care that I was making myself physically sick. There was nothing wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have a cold and I would have this. And I was like, every single time I was like, I think I have COVID. Girl, I did not catch COVID until December. But October, November, you could have told me nothing else. I was like, got COVID for 3 months. Because it was just like that.
I'm sorry, y'all. It's that I was there through all of that, so
Right.
it's funny to me.
No, because seriously, like I would call Lex and Lex was like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm supposed to be working, but I called out.
And it literally, it was just like, and I was, and I'm just sitting here like, it's okay. Like mentally,
Mhm.
jobs really need to provide a mental health. ¿Cómo se dice? How you say that? How you,
Assistance, support.
right,
But,
support.
but
But
that's not even it. Like because
but I know that's
right.
not the case. But I'm saying like when you're that overwhelmed to the point
Mhm.
where you're mentally unable to work, it's physically making you sick. Because I remember one day where you had an anxiety attack,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry, I
Oh,
didn't mean
yes.
to, but
Oh no, yes.
I was like,
Mhm.
I'm so sorry. I should have cleared that. I should have cleared that. My bad.
No. I looked at you because I just don't remember. But then as soon as you said it, I was like, I know what you're talking
okay.
about.
If I got the clearance.
Right.
You had an anxiety attack,
Yep.
and
It was a
I
Saturday.
remember, I know, because you called me,
Mhm.
and I just remember telling you, like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, you
But you couldn't
take
have
the
told
day.
no, but I was
But yeah,
just
no, y'all, she was not,
nope.
you couldn't have said anything to her in that moment that was going to really, truly calm her down fully. She needed a day.
But you wanna know what triggered that? The client that I was working with,
Was overly
she, like, went in on me.
aggressive. She was aggressive.
Yes. Aside from, like, again, I work customer service, so
Ooh,
it's
honey.
just she went in, like, she told me basically along how I was incompetent, I couldn't do my job, I was basically worthless, and that she doesn't know how this company kept me, and that it wouldn't be a surprise if I got fired and I would never have another job.
And on a normal day,
On a normal day, I would
that
have
would
been
not have been
like
bothered. She would have laughed about it. She'd
I
have hit me
would've
up and we'd have laughed about
right, and I would have literally started playing like, "Move, get out the way," and, like,
it.
literally. But at that time, I was so in my depression that I was already thinking all these things.
Right. So for her saying it, it hit. It
It
hit.
hit tenfold, and I'm like, and literally, like, in my head, I'm like, "You right, you right,
I'm
sis, how'd you
sorry.
know?"
We can laugh about it now, y'all. We've definitely talked about
Right.
this.
I
I'm
was
not
like
laughing at her just with her.
right, but it's crazy how, like, things, like, this is so, like so this is the reason why it's so important for you to speak positivity to your own person,
Hmm.
because it's just, like, if you allow that bad speech to happen, it's just anything on the outside, and people on the outside always have something to say. So, it was just, like, I was stuck. And then it's just like, not only was I stuck at work, I was still, I work from home. So the constant of what my grandfather was going through.
Right.
So I'm dealing with the clients. I'm hearing this in the background. I have that client tell me you ain't worth anything. And then I'm like, my weight is going up. I was like, girl.
I'm about to freak out. It's about to go
No, no,
down.
no. It's not even about it went down.
No, it went down for sure. It
It's
went
like-
down. But I'm just saying, like, in my head, I was like, oh God.
But it's crazy because I caught myself like calling my manager and I'm like, this is what she just said. And I just can't. I was like, I can't breathe. I can't. I was like, I need to get off these phones now, now, now. I'm taking the rest of the day. And my manager literally, like, she was like, what is going on?
Because usually, you guys, Dora is very composed.
Very.
And she,
Capital
first
V.
of all, she's not going to go to her manager
At all.
that hysterical.
Mm-mm.
Like, not even when she should be telling people off in the management level, she won't do. And I've watched this because we've worked together in that field. And it's just like, for
Mhm.
her to have that moment, I'm like, girl, I'm gonna need for you to take a day or two.
Right.
Take a day or two, recoup, get your life, and just don't talk to nobody.
Right.
Don't talk. I think that was actually one of the first times, or at least in a long time, that you and I went that long without speaking. During those months, we didn't speak as much as we usually
Because
do.
I didn't
She didn't want to talk to nobody.
I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't go upstairs. So basically my setup is I rent from my parents
Right.
in a multi-family home. So we all have our own floor. So I'm completely independent. So it's like if I don't want to open my door, I won't. And sis said, I'm not opening any doors.
Yeah.
And literally to the point where like I know my parents were like, what is wrong with her? Because literally my mother would come and she was like, knock. She's like, you're good? Yeah, you working today? No, I have days off. Lies. I was like, I have days off because I called out, but
Right.
not because, whatever. And it's just like, to the point where management was like, if you need some time, we have resources for you. And I was like, what? I've never in my entire life been fired from a job. And I felt like the guillotine was on my neck. Like I was like, they're going after Dora. They're going after, but honestly, I mean, if I was a different type of manager, right? But if I was in the management position observing myself, I would also be like, we got to take her off the team. She a liability. Right? So it's just like, I get it. I mean, it's funny now looking back on it. And honestly, truthfully, if I think about it, I don't know what kicked me. I think Christmas.
I was like, I think it had everything to do with after the whole COVID situation with your family. Like
Mhm.
it was literally like Christmas, but then COVID, and then the New Year,
Mhm.
and you had time because of COVID. You had time to
Right.
reflect.
Thank you. Yes.
I was like, I got you, girl. We was
Right.
here. We was here together. I be in her life. She be in mine.
Yes, I caught COVID December 28th, and then I was out for a
Unfortunately,
while.
on my birthday.
Well, yeah,
I was
sorry.
so tight, y'all.
But it, yeah, I was no, but I caught COVID and I sounded bad. It wasn't even like it's just had respiratory problems she's never had.
But
It was,
with COVID, thank God. I'm telling you, everything happens for a reason because
Mhm.
not that I want to wish COVID on you, but you were able to take the time off from work because of COVID.
Right.
That you had the break that you needed to recuperate.
Yes, because I was out of work. Was it a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a few days before the
Right.
month hit. It was
Right.
like 3.5 weeks.
Mhm. Yeah.
But you
COVID
had the
saved my
time.
life.
COVID, yo, I'm telling you, everything happens for a
Literally,
reason.
yeah.
Like, and think about it. How long has it been, and you haven't caught COVID? And then all of
Mhm.
a sudden, at this mental breakdown of your
Right.
of your life, this what you transition or midlife crisis, whatever you want to call
Right.
it, right? COVID.
Yes. And I was out. And then and it's funny because obviously I had caught COVID, so I couldn't be around anybody. But at the same time, like that was a time like I just got to rest and I was just watching videos, thinking about content and I made honestly, oh
You made a
wow.
decision.
I made
You made a decision.
Right.
I know. I was like, I'm
I
waiting
was
for her to get to
I
it.
was
Come
like-
on, girl.
I was like, I made I made many decisions.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like I just
Yeah, if y'all
got
can
that.
see me right now, I'm so excited. I'm so hyped up. Not for nothing. Like that was her catching COVID was such a blessing. It was such a blessing because it opened her eyes in so many ways that I
Yes.
have been like screaming at her,
Mhm.
quietly. That,
Screaming.
this ain't for you, sis.
Yes.
And that time frame really like it did it for her. So I'm
Right.
gonna let her finish telling her story.
It just put things into perspective. I'm not gonna say it on this, but episode, but we have a whole episode
yes,
dedicated
coming
to
up very
right,
soon.
what I decided.
Yes.
Follow me on TikTok.
She started
But-
the TikTok.
But you know, I did my little dance.
TikTok, you went viral with it.
But,
yeah.
But what I will say is I was able to catch myself and then I made decisions and I kind of just started revamping and kind of just also took the time to kind of speak life into me really and just be like, Dora, what you doing, girl? You know you better than this. And it's just like, no, not again. And when I came back with a vengeance. I came back to
And the
slay.
not again that she's referring to is the not giving myself to this company who doesn't appreciate or deserve myself
Right.
and not giving to myself. Just FYI.
Right. So it was just like again, there was that meme that said, I'm not responsible for your lack of employment. So therefore, if you need to hire more people for this ish to get done, do so.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that, but I came back with a vengeance and I can't say that things are perfect, but they're moving along and
They're
I made
moving in the direction that you're choosing, though, not
Right.
one that you're forced into.
Right. But again, no, No, I had already made that decision that I'm thinking about what you're talking about. I was already in the middle of that. That's
Wait, the one that's gonna be
right.
No, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about redirecting your life career wise.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's what I was referring to.
okay, yes.
You were able to actually take the mental break that you needed to realize in what direction you wanted yourself to go versus, what you felt that you had to be stuck into because of X, Y, and Z reasons.
Right. But I mean, I don't know. Like I feel very optimistic.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, this year is full. This year has been so far for Dora and myself. I can only speak for us because I only know our ish, right? Has been a year of big decisions,
Revelations.
big revelations, big decisions, whatever you want to call it, and redirecting.
Right.
It has really been a year of redirection, like
Mhm.
just picking and going, and like, you know what, this needs to happen now and not later, and this I don't know when we're gonna get to the end, but this is how we're gonna get there. Like that's what's been going on so far, 2022. But again, early midlife crisis between the ages of 25 and 35.
Right. But I think you have to. I always have said like the biggest changes in my life, and again, this might be because I'm a big procrastinator, But the biggest biggest changes in my life that have been most successful is when I feel that the guillotine is at my neck. And when I feel like I have no other option
Mhm.
and I'm like down to my knees and I'm like, Jesus, please send a sign now, now, now.
But, prior to okay, so yes, but there's a difference between transitions and crisis, right?
Hmm.
Like, prior to now, I feel like those are more like transitional moments,
Hmm.
right? Very pivotal points in your life where you matured a little more and there and there and there. But
Hmm. Did I?
you I
Just
can't with you. Don't start. Don't start. I'm trying to make a good point here. um, dang it. I had a flow.
sorry.
I had a flow.
I just ruined her flow. You said transitional moments where you matured.
I really lost my flow, yeah.
Meaning she was trying to feed
I
you
was
BS.
no, I just don't. Okay, my brain does not work the same. I keep telling y'all this. No, but the basic point of what I was trying to get to was in this age range, depending on how you lived your life before this age range is really going to dictate, your irrational behaviors,
Hmm.
right? So in your case, I feel like it's more of a transition versus a crisis just because you didn't do anything irrational. It wasn't really irrational. Everything that you did was logical.
Oh, right. Okay. I understand.
Does that make sense? Like
Right.
I feel like you took the time that you needed to make logical decisions. Yeah, I had to I don't even know. My mouth was like full of spit just now for some reason. It was like
It's like, sorry, y'all.
that was a hard swallow.
It's like,
But yes, but like God, see, you about to make me put people on spot.
oh God. I
Um,
told you there was a person behind this.
no, I'm thinking because I'm like, I gotta go through the list of people now because there's a few. There are a few.
Okay, you can say things without mentioning the person.
No, because then people still gonna know who I'm talking about. People who know will know. I don't even want them to get to where I'm going. Oh God.
Can you make it general?
The,
It's like,
the,
no, they were crazy. It's
I
like,
mean, y'all really do get the point though. Like
yes.
when you hit that age, and because we've all been there, or we are all probably going to get there at one
Hmm.
point or another, where the decisions that we make will be irrational based on how we've lived thus far
Right.
within this age range.
So I think the difference is when you reach a certain level of maturity, it's all about you learn to pivot, right?
Hmm.
And you're constantly, not constantly, but
You
when
are constantly growing to the point where your pivot will come again.
right. But what I'm saying is when you're met with difficult situations,
Hmm.
you learn that kind of like that's your sign. I
That's your
gotta
sign,
pivot.
right?
Right.
Exactly.
I gotta pivot. Versus sometimes when you don't have that maturity, you don't know how to express that outlet. And instead of pivoting, you're just like, I'm just going to mask this with something else. And usually
Right.
that something else is something crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
no. You learn that in order to progress, you need to become uncomfortable. With those uncomfortable moments come very difficult decisions, situations in your life. And it might seem like everything is like, oh my God, it's all going to hell. It's not.
Right.
This is your time to pivot or fall.
Right.
That's what it is. You're gonna pivot
Hmm.
or you're gonna spiral downhill.
Right.
And the spiraling downhill is those moments of crisis.
Hmm.
The moment of crisis that I'm referring to here.
Right.
I need to find out how
I
to
think it's just the
plurally say
moments of
that.
crisis.
Nah, bro. You about to have me whip out Google.
I can't. I really think it is, but that's not here.
But yeah,
But I will say, I think I had an advantage to learning how to pivot because I went through very difficult situations early on.
my point.
Right. Because even with like the whole divorce situation, right?
That
That
was
hit,
your early
right.
midlife crisis, though.
That hit, no, but I didn't really go into crisis mode at that point.
Bruh.
Really?
Bruh.
I don't really think so.
Bruh.
Just whatever.
Disclosures, my behind.
It's just like, okay, first of all, okay, maybe.
I was like, girl.
Maybe. Okay. You want to
Because
know?
I'm not gonna tell you how, because I'm not gonna put you on the air like that. But honey, you
It's
definitely
just
went through a
like,
stage from then to now that you no longer do.
well, you want to know what it is? I took, after that and several other relationships, I finally learned the value within not being in a relationship and learning to love myself
Exactly.
and being time, spending time with me So now the Dora, like, she spends a lot of time by herself, and I'm happy. Like,
Mhm.
I'm happy and I'm content. And if someone wants to come into my life to add benefit, it's like great, but it's like really, I'm happy.
But that's what I'm saying. It
It's
was
just
still
one of
you
those
went through
things.
that in
No,
your 25,
that's
you know,
right.
between I think it was like 26 to like right before 30.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a little, it
Sis,
wasn't
I was
that
here for it.
extended.
Sis, I was
No,
here
it
for it.
was basically the quiet one was like the end
Oh,
of that.
yeah.
So that
Okay.
was 27.
I said that, didn't I? No, I
You
said
said
right before
30.
30.
Yeah, I was like, let's not
All
extend it.
right.
I wasn't that crazy for that long.
All
But
right.
but 30. But I mean, we live and we learn and then we get loves. But I think honestly, it's just you have to take the time, but that comes you have to have those bumps in the road sometimes.
But
I
my
feel like
point to this whole thing is you have to learn to transition instead
mhm,
of go through a crisis. You have to find out what in your life is going to move you forward and not back. And, learning yourself enough to be able to truly reflect. That's
mhm,
the issue is that a lot of people don't want to reflect. And that's how we become, and that not become, that's how we start doing irrational things is because we
mhm.
won't reflect. We don't want to take accountability for our actions and the choices that we've made thus far to lead us here. And therefore we're not able to transition because we won't even admit to ourselves that we need to.
Right. It's difficult because again, that's that whole self-awareness journey. And that's a very difficult thing, especially depending on what your childhood was like, what
Hmm.
traumas you may or may not have, what
But
coping mechanisms you developed.
that
Child.
requires giving yourself grace, space, appreciation for getting yourself thus far, really just being patient with where you are in life and not living to the expectations of those around you.
Yes.
That is really what that is. Like we can avoid people can definitely avoid the early midlife crisis phase if we just learn or we're taught, right? One, to handle our emotions, two, self-reflect, to take accountability for our actions. But that's not something that the average person is really taught. So then we
Mhm.
hit these moments and we're like, dang, man, like, why am I here? How did I get here? Life is so short, but yet life is so long, or blah, blah, blah. Like,
Mhm.
it's a lot.
Yeah. I hear you, sis. Hopefully others do too.
Yeah, no lie. This has really been on my mind super heavy lately. Just taking in the fact that I don't have to keep living in the thought of life is short.
Mhm.
But me personally, I want to switch my thought process to life is long and life is beautiful and life is going to be full of many changes because I was stuck in the life is short for so long that I felt like I didn't want to change. I didn't want to change
Mhm.
opportunities.
Right.
I didn't want to leave certain situations because in my head it was like, but this is all I got. This is all I
Mhm.
got. This is what I got to do. I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to do it.
Right.
And I'm like, dang, I don't have to do that. And I don't have to stay here. It's like, I may have, I may never get this time back that I've already lost, but that don't mean that I have to continue into this situation and allow it to continuously take my time from me. I can
Right.
change directions in life and be okay. Your guys are
Mhm.
going to be okay. Don't be afraid to change paths, to
Mhm.
redirect your life. When you start thinking long that your life is long, you become more okay with quitting things. People are afraid to quit. People are afraid to fail. But the thing is, when you learn that life is beautiful, or you allow yourself to feel that life is long and beautiful versus life is short, you don't have that pressure of of being afraid to quit.
When you put it that way, I get it. When you no, I mean it's the truth. I think no matter how you phrase it, I think life is always about balance and finding what balance is right for you.
Absolutely.
Because I feel that I also, feel like people do need to live in the present, and I think that they do need to be appreciative of their current situation. That doesn't mean that you're stuck in your current situation or
Right.
that you cannot quit. But I understand what you're saying in that perspective because I mean, I don't interpret, life is short as, me not wanting to leave or quit something,
Many people
but
do.
many people do. And I completely understand. In that sense, like if you need to establish it in your head as I need to look forward to the long game
Mhm.
instead of the short game to give you that, by all means, power to you, sis.
Anyway, guys, I'm gonna end it here. We're gonna end it here. Thank you so much for tuning in.
And yes, like always, catch us on IG. So you were saying underscore. I can't wait.
Until next time, guys. Thank you so much. We will see you later. Bye.
Bye.